Happy Sunday. Hashtag our global family. This is Dre Abeita, pastor of Coyotes Lodge, House of Spirituality, Critical Theory, and Medical Marijuana. Thank you so much for joining us this glorious Sunday or anytime, which is the best part of being part of this Coyotes online spiritual family. Today, we are here to celebrate life, family, and to celebrate our dreams for the future by remembering to reflect upon the past. And as every service starts, family, I am going to start with an Indigenous land acknowledgement before we go to our prayer. I'd like to stand upon this ground barefoot, family. And not only does it allow me to have a physical and literal connection to our world, but it also helps me to ground my mind and body and spirit. Together, family, we are reflecting upon the ground upon which our lives are built. Dear family, think of the original people of who lived upon the land in which you stand. How has coloniality and white supremacy and capitalism affected all of our lives? And how can we continue to honor the sacrifices made by our ancestors as we continue to survive and thrive amidst a global pandemic in 2021? Dear family, it has been an adventure. The COVID pandemic has literally tested us past our human limits. And how do we survive, family? Well, you know, this coyote believes in replenishing and focusing and working towards a balance between your mind, body, and spirit. So today, family, join me in recharging our batteries and giving some time to nourish our spirits. I am blending our traditions, as all of us are, Indigenous people or people of color, white people, people around the world who are united by a human experience. Let us reclaim an authentic, humanizing identity in which we embrace each other and unite on our common dreams. Our dreams for a future for our communities and for our children, and for us all to have a house, a roof over our heads, some shelter, some dreams, and maybe, I don't know, family, what are your dreams? What if we ran around asking people what they would like to transform the world, how they would like to transform the world? What if you started every conversation like this coyote does with what are your dreams and what are you doing with the rest of your life? As we blend modernity with our cultural practices, I'm taking this sage, family, and blending it with a modern appliance to once again practice in our cultural heritage and a ceremony that all of our peoples around the world have used at one point. Because, family, when we sacrifice and we purify our space, our minds, our bodies, and spirits, we grow and we ask for guidance and we ask for the strength to continue fighting our everyday battles. Because that's who we are, family. We are the everyday revolutionaries. So as the sage is being burned, we call upon our ancestors to give us strength. Hi, Gammy. It's your favorite mischievous coyote. And I know it's been like 2 hours since we last talked. But I would like to honor you today, on this day of all days, because of the lifetime of experience and love that you show to your granddaughter on this day every year. Whether it was that Seeds box of chocolate, or maybe that ham you made, or maybe some enchiladas. we came together as a family, regardless of our religious beliefs, to make sure that we were able to sustain each other and love each other. So thank you, Gammy, for your examples and for making sure that our family had a center and a heart. Dear Papa, thank you for making all the food. I family in my physical family every day in the moment family. The men are the ones who cook. We would all starve, I'm just saying. So, dear Papa, thank you so much for always providing and making sure that our holiday meals were extra special with your tortillas and your beans and all of your love. Dear great grandpa Pablo Abeita, thank you, sir, for being a leader and a revolutionary when our people need it. May you send all of your blessings to our youth, to our leaders in government, in activism, in grassroots, in the classrooms, and the parents who are leading our communities by teaching their children how to walk in this world. Please send strength and guidance to us all. And to all of our aunties, uncles, cousins, gammies, adopted blood, and everyone who wishes us well, please send your blessings to us and look kindly as we walk and have adventures in your name. Dear family, I would also like to take this moment to have a moment of silence for one of my fallen sisters. My dear fallen warrior sister, Glenda Lewis, was a revolutionary, and honestly, family, she was an angel on this world. She, when you met her spark of life, her enthusiasm, her passion for how she was changing the world was infectious. And I miss her, like so many people in our community in New Mexico and all over who have been touched. We ask you, dear sister, to look kindly upon us and to allow us to continue the work that you started. You will never be forgotten, and you are always in our hearts. Dear family, today, if you happen, remember, this is the house of spirituality, critical theory, and medical marijuana. And I would like to remind our old friends and our new family members what that actually means. That means that we are a house of spirituality family, and we are literally creating a new way to walk in the world. So our readings do not come from the Bible or religious text, but rather they come from traditional stories, sociological stories about real life lived experiences, or they literally come from our original epistemologies and ontologies like Napi or Coyote origin stories. So family, I am asking you on Sundays to join us to work on your spirit, but to also start thinking critically and figuring out how you would like to walk in this world. What kind of leader, what kind of community member, what kind of elder, what kind of parent, what kind of future leader and revolutionary are you going to be? We are also the house of medical marijuana, family. And what does that mean? That means that we are a space that embraces alternative ways of healing and finding out more about how we can heal our minds and bodies, family. This global pandemic has proven to us that trauma is all around us, and the more tools that we use in order to stay in our communities and to make sure that we take care of ourselves and our families and are able to do the work that lifts all of us up, we need to also make sure that we have those healing tools. And medical marijuana is one of those tools, family. As I partake of this medicine, I ask for my grandmother and for my ancestors to open the ears and open the minds of my brothers and sisters and non-binary siblings around the world to start thinking differently. Medical marijuana is not a drug to be criminalized, but rather a life-saving medication. Today's first reading, family, comes from an old favorite. This is from my days back at Dartmouth College when I was an NAS major, and I was for the first time able to learn and read and embrace the knowledge and teachings of Indigenous people. Because although I lived in New Mexico my entire life, although I lived on the Isleta Reservation my entire life until I got married at 24, I had not yet had the opportunity to see Native people as keepers of knowledge, as the teachers of the actual courses, and had to wait until I was an adult person to learn about myself. So, dear family, I have 3 readings for you today. I know we usually do 2, but the third one is more of a, Grandfather Coyote said to end with a little present. Our first reading, family, it really is asking us to think about the idea of prophecy, to think about the idea of faith and spirituality and knowledge. So I'm asking you, family, what does a person believe, and how do their beliefs affect the way that they treat other people and affect the way that they walk in the world? Because I'm asking you, family, when I go back to my very first sermon, when I founded this church in November, I asked you as religious people of Christian or Buddhism or Muslim faith to do a critical examination and to find out if your way of practicing religion does no harm, family. Because that is our ultimate goal, is that we are all human people striving to survive and thrive amidst a world that does not love us and does not embrace us for our unique individual experiences. If you are different, family, this world does not embrace you. So I'm asking you, those hard lines that you have created in your lives based on heteronormativity, based on religion, based on sexuality, based on class, based on those intersections that are vital parts of people's identities, how many of those beliefs are humanizing? And how many of them are violent and cause harm? So this reading that I'm first sharing from you, it came from one of our prophets, from one of our elders, and it was recorded by the United States government. He will use any means to get what he wants. Dan Kach Hono Gave Hopi. His Hopi surname means white cloud above horizon, and was revered as a spiritual leader from Hoteville, one of Arizona's 12 Hopi towns. When he repeated this prophecy in 1955 during a testimony at the Washington congressional hearing, he was in his 80s. Within the oral tradition of the peaceful ones, as the Hopi call themselves, are narratives foretelling the future of mankind. They often mention the Bahana, the Hopi's lost white brother, who vowed to return to the Hopi to establish peace and to spread wisdom. Some Hopi say they wait for him still. In ancient times, it was prophesied by our forefathers that this land would be occupied by the Indian people, and then from somewhere a white man would come. He would come either with a strong faith and righteous religion, which the Great Spirit had also given him, or he will come after he abandoned the great life plan and fallen to the face of his own personal ideas, which he invented before coming here. It was known that the white man is an intelligent person inventive of many words, a man who knows how to influence people because of his sweet way of talking, and that he will use many of these things upon us when he comes. We knew that this land beneath us was composed of many things that we might want to use later, such as mineral resources. We knew that this was the wealthiest part of the continent because it was here the Great Spirit lives. We knew that the white man will search for the things that look good to him and that he will use many good ideas in order to obtain his heart's desire. And we knew that if he had strayed from the Great Spirit, he would use any means to get what he wants. These things we were warned to watch, and we today know that these prophecies were true because we can see how many new and selfish ideas and plans are put before us. We know that if we accept these things, we lose our land and we give up our lives. This was from our community elder in front of a congressional hearing in 1955. And I ask you, brothers and sisters and Indigenous and non-binary siblings included, I'm asking you, as we walk in the world, how much of this prophecy has come to pass? Even these brothers and sisters that I have that label themselves or are labeled by others as white, I'm asking you, is that a true and authentic and humanizing identity? Our elder and prophet asked us to be wary of people who will put their selfish needs in front of good. And I'm asking you, family, in 2021, when we are burdened by institutions and laws that seem not to protect the individual person, but rather the dehumanizing institutions in which we fight. When we are sole people who have been reduced due to a capitalist system as an individual fighting a giant monster, how is this humanizing? And I would like for us to reflect upon our brother's words and his wisdom and ask ourselves in 2021, all of these promises that have been made to make our lives easier, to fix everything with a wave of a hand, with the taking of a medication, although obviously medication is part of our ability to heal ourselves, family. But it is, again, only one part in a society that is facing the real ramifications of an opiate epidemic. So I'm asking you, family, our elders warned us when we first came in contact with modern civilization. I'm asking you, were all the promises kept? And if they were broken, as many treaty agreements throughout our lived experiences throughout the centuries have taught us, then why do we still hold to those contracts? And can we not tear this down and create something new that is humanizing and loving for us all? My second reading is entitled, Keep Your Presence. And I'm asking you again, family, in this modern era where I am a literal indigenous person, a modern warrior who is constrained by time and space and humanity, I'm asking you, how can we create a powerful, humanizing identity that becomes a source of strength for us? And one in which we have a balance of respect with our world around us. A Pawnee Curly chief recalls here a few tribesmen's rejection of European wares. Actually, a federation of 4 central peoples. The hunting and farming Pawnee lived in large earth lodge villages along the Platte River in Nebraska. In the early decades of the 19th century, their lands lay in the path of American pioneers whose wagons were rolling towards the southwest. This contact with whites brought them social disillusion and disease. In 1849, they lost a fourth of their people to smallpox and cholera. In 1875, the tribe was moved to northern Oklahoma, and there is no record of which treaty session Curly Chief is remembering here. How many of our memories, how many of our history have been forgotten because we forgot how to read the messages of our elders that were left behind? And I'm asking us, how can we reclaim those memories and create a future in which we are proud of who we are and are able to see ourselves in not only positions of power, but our educational experiences, but everywhere in our lives? I heard that long ago there was a time when there were no people in this country except Indians. After that, the people began to hear of men that had white skin. They had been seen far to the east, but before I was born, they came out to our country and visited us. The man who came was from the government. He wanted to make a treaty with us and give us presents, blankets and guns and flint and steel and knives. The head chief told him that we need none of these things. He said, we have our buffalo and we have our corn. These things the ruler gave us, and they are all that we need. See this robe? This keeps me warm in the winter. I need no blanket. The white men had with them some cattle, and the Pawnee chief said, lead out a heifer here on the prairie. They led her out, and the chief, stepping up to her, shot her through the behind the shoulder with an arrow, and she fell down and died. Then the chief said, why not my arrow kill? I do not need your guns. Then he took his stone knife and skinned the heifer and cut off a piece of fat meat. When he had done this, he said, why should I take your knives? The ruler has given me something to cut with. Then taking the fire sticks, he kindled a fire to roast the meat. And while it was cooking, he spoke again and said, you see, my brother, that the ruler has given us all that we need, the buffalo for food and the clothing, the corn we eat with our dried meat, bow, arrow, knives, and hoes, all the implements that we need for killing meats and for cultivating the ground. Now go back to the country from which you came. We do not want your presence, and we do not want you to come to our country. These are powerful words, family, from a chief and an elder of our community during a time of vast invasion. And while we have our pockets of resistance, we know, unfortunately, that history has been rewritten through the eyes of the white American reborn colonizer. And I'm asking you, family, is that the legacy that you would like to embrace of what America was? Or do we need to redefine our own history and reclaim the trauma that we have visited upon many of our communities throughout the eras and own up to the responsibilities of why our society continues to hold some people in positions of power while maintaining a power and hand to oppress and keep other communities enslaved? So join with me, family, in using not only critical thought and using our power of self-reflection and finding strength in our stories and our histories and understanding where we come from. And before I let you go, family, I have one last moment of joy. And I would like for you to think of this story as a point of reflection. And it is interesting to me because it was written by a Native American warrior, an author, a leader of their people. But that person too felt lonely and rejected because of identity, because they were neither fully white nor fully human. And I'm asking you, family, in 2021, where we talk about equality and we've talked about equity and we talk about the American dream, I'm asking you to really think critically on how we can actually create that future, because it is not the lived experiences of my fellow community members and brothers and sisters around the world. So I'm asking you, family, take this comedic narrative You might be offended by it, but I want you to think of it. And if it makes you upset, I want you to think about why. If it makes you laugh, I want you to think about that moment of joy. And I want you to take that and share it with the world, family. Because through emotionality and through healing, we will transform this world. A good Indian's dilemma. Even when an Indian was baptized as the missionaries insisted, racial bigotry kept him from gaining fuller acceptance by whites. The Fox or Meskwaki Indians of the Southern Lakes region provided this ironic antidote about a convert's can't-win plight. Once there was an Indian who became a Christian. He became a very good Christian. He went to church and he didn't smoke or he didn't drink, and he was good to everyone. He was a good man. Then he died. First, he went to the Indian hereafter, but they wouldn't take him because he was Christian. Then he went to heaven, but they wouldn't let him in because he was Indian. Then he went to hell, but they wouldn't admit him either because he was good. So he came alive again, and he went to the buffalo dance and the other dances and taught his children to do the same. Dear family, Anonymous Fox has left us with his words of wisdom. But is there freedom in never truly being fixated on one part of our identity? We can be many things and have many faces and wear many hats, right? Not many faces. That's a problem. We have many hats and many roles that we fill in the world. But I would just like to leave you with that wonderful thought, family. How can we find ways to embrace each other based on common human experience and love? This is a day where many around the world are celebrating the idea of resurrection and the new creation of our hope. So hold on to that idea of hope, family. This is Dre Abeita, your pastor of Coyotes Lodge, House of Spirituality, Critical Theory of Medical Marijuana. I will see you again next Sunday for service. Enjoy the week and walk in peace and love and joy, family, because we celebrate life.